Ladies and gentlemen, we're back with more podcasting action. I'm super excited because today our special guest is Tom Ffiske. He's the editor of Immersive Wire, and I'm super glad that he agrees to join us live today. I'm able to actually ask him and pepper him with loads of questions and maybe even go through some of the VR news that has happened over this eventful week. So without further delay, I should maybe do a proper introduction first about our special guest, Tom Ffiske. Well, the drum calls him the VR and AR marketing expert. And Tom Ffiske writes about immersive technologies at the Immersive Wire, a newsletter and website dedicated to all things VR, AR, and the Metaverse. His goal is to bring a curated digest of the analysis that matters, helping professionals interested in the immersive to reach new heights. Tom has also written about the industry since 2016, covering the latest trends and investments while keeping a pulse on the latest innovations. He has spoken in several events, published a best-selling book on the sector, and helped connect professionals to help each other soar. Alongside the Immersive Wire, Tom also worked as a full-time account director within the technology team at Monkeys Zeno, a leading global communications agency. The Immersive Wire is a subsidiary of Virtual Perception. So that's my introduction for Tom. Without further ado, let's bring him on to our virtual podcasting studio. How are you, my friend?
I'm very good, thank you. I'm incredibly flattered by your introduction. I didn't anticipate that. Thank you. Yeah, it's been good. Currently it's 1 o'clock in the UK at the moment. And I'm just sipping some coffee very slowly.
This is great, and likewise, it's a privilege to have you coming on to the program because we always love to speak to experts in the field, and you are a huge expert. I think you have one of the Amazon best-selling books on VR AR, so it's really a privilege and honor. And I think we should get cracking, right? Because we've been looking forward to this live taping, I think, since a month ago. So maybe get things started. Let's kick off by getting you to maybe do a 3-minute introduction, or just tell us, a quick 30-second of what's Immersive Wire.
Thank you. So what the Immersive Wire is principally it's a newsletter, and I don't want to say it's just purely full of virtual or augmented reality news or on the metaverse. It's geared more towards trying to give you the insights and thoughts you need in order to get better knowledge of the industry, so that you have a better understanding of what's happening and where the course is going. So it's leveling up your knowledge so you better understand where the course is. My sense of humor when it comes to the newsletter is quite lighthearted with a mix of professionalism, because if you're going to be reading something which is business related, I think you do need to be more chill about it, because it's life. We just want to be happier sometimes. And the aim of the newsletter is to basically focus on that. So sent every Wednesday and every Sunday. And the Wednesday editions are kind of a digest of what's happening, with a little bit of analysis, while the Sunday is a deep dive where everything's happening too. It's completely free. When it comes to all levels of it, it's absolutely free, because I think the access to the knowledge should be open to everyone. And I don't like the idea of some people doing tiers for certain types of content. And as you noted, there's a book which I published, which did well. I'm currently writing the second one, but I have to say it's slow going, and I find it very much difficult to get all my thoughts down and to balance it between seeing friends and work as well. So a lot of it's being written on Saturday and Sunday, and I'm just trying to pace myself so I don't get burned out, because that has happened before, and I just want to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I think you put it very succinctly when it comes to happiness, and also when it comes to working on your own pace and making sure that we're not overwhelmed by so much information that is coming at us. And this industry is just moving so rapidly, right? So it might get really difficult, to maybe edit down into some of the things that are more relevant, and it's hard to determine what's relevant because things are just changing so fast, right? So there's so many things to talk about on this show, and thank you so much for that short intro about Immersive Wire. And there's a lot of news to talk about this week. I think we had the new Rayban Stories glasses. And Apple had an event as well. And what's interesting is what they didn't announce, right, during the iPhone 13 launch. And of course, there's so much metaverse frenzy right now. So I think let's maybe get cracking and talk about whether you're really tired, or people mentioning Apple when they have kind of like shown nothing so far, right? So what are your thoughts about the Apple event that happened?
I mean, the Apple event itself was cool. It's interesting to see what they're doing with the iPhone 13 and what upgrades they are doing. Finally, doing a 120 hertz screen, which is the same as everyone else. I use a Samsung myself, and it's just remarkable that Apple hasn't done that until now. So it's great to see that. On the what they did not mention when it comes to XR things, we know they're making XR stuff internally. They're experimenting. I just get really bored of people just hyping it up on social media and then just inevitably get disappointed. It's like with video game conferences where they expect a video game, and then when they don't get released, they just like disappoint themselves. Like it's all self-inflicted. And I think one of the reasons why people are so hyped, I mean, Wayne, I'm sure you'll agree with this, is they expect Apple to kind of come in and just kind of sweep the industry and bring it to a new standard. And they're not wrong. When Apple introduced 5G into the newest edition of their phones, 5G adoption got a lot higher. So they do follow seismic shifts in industry. But I'm really unsure about the XR aspect because we haven't seen anything yet. We see lots of rumors. We see stuff on pixel counts. We see a little bit on like content, but it's very difficult to pin down what their business aim is, and it's all speculation, which is why I just get frustrated sometimes. Do you feel the same way?
I feel the same way. In fact, I'm one of the guilty parties. I think when they actually announced the event, right, they did something really cool with their AR announcement, where you could just basically click on the banner on the event page, right? Immediately you enter this portal and you get to see the other side of the realm, and it's just beautiful and immersive. And I was playing with that, on the train platform. So I was recording a video and uploading it on my Instagram and TikTok. And it got people around me excited as well. But then I realized that Apple, haven't really shown anything yet. But perhaps it's all about timing for them as well, right? What's interesting is that they've cleared a lot of iPad announcements, which normally they would reserve for an October event. So I think there's hope, for a one more thing announcement. But again, I'm guilty again of trying to hype it up. Just when, at the time when Facebook is doing so much movements, right, in these areas, I think they probably deserve more of our attention. And maybe that's the topic that we're going to talk about next, moving on from Apple, right? We know that Facebook have worked with Rayban, and I think it's a very tactical and strategy a great move for them to actually partner with Ray-Ban, because Ray-Ban seems to be a more consumer-friendly brand, and I always wanted to own a pair of Ray-Ban glasses. Yeah, so they have this Ray-Ban Stories, which is not marketed or branded as Facebook Stories. And why do you think this is so? And what was your reaction when you saw this announcement of how Apple is actually entering this game by releasing a pair of glass that is touted as a starting point or one step towards the kind of AR glasses that we are all hoping to own one day?
Well, for professional reasons, I'm just going to preface this by saying I've not tried out Rayban Stories yet. I do. And then, so if you are iffy about like my opinion of that kind of stuff, just want to preface it with that. Conceptually, and based on seeing it in the wild, because I went up to Camden and I've seen a pair and how they're used. I agree with you that it's super smart. They call it Rayban Stories and not Facebook Stories, right? It's the market for it is for fashion people who want to show off their life. It's not really for tech enthusiasts like you or I. It's for a particular type of person who wants to show off they have Ray-Bans, as well as the fact that those Ray-Bans in themselves can do some very cool things they can share on Instagram and the like. That's the purpose. There are touch points with Facebook, so there's no branding on Facebook at all on the glasses, but you have to download an app which is labeled as a Facebook app in order to use it. So at some point, someone's going to work out that it's linked to Facebook. And I guess for us as a tech industry, we do raise eyebrows when it comes to Facebook putting literal cameras when it comes to everything which they see. But on the other hand, I have to also remind myself that the general public don't really know how much Facebook owns. My parents didn't know that Facebook owned WhatsApp, for example. They had no idea. They used it every day, even though they might not use other social platforms. a lot of people had no idea that Instagram's owned by Facebook, for example. And same with Oculus too. People buy an Oculus headset don't realize they need a Facebook login. And funnily enough, this is actually why Facebook did a branding campaign, I think it was a year ago, to like show that across the board is owned by Facebook as a branding. But I don't actually know ever since that branding campaign how successful it's been. But it's something to point out.
Yeah, and there's something to add also about the form factor, right? They are probably the OGs for Ray-Ban. They're the OGs when it comes to making really cool glasses, right? And you're spot on when it comes to like, this is more like a product for content creators. People will love doing TikTok videos, right? But for those who are enthusiastic, about the technology, where, you're able to really, achieve very immersive experiences, they're definitely going to be very disappointed with this announcement.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, so like we know there are AR glasses in development and it's going to be coming. We just have to see what they show off. I mean, Boss has dropped some hints here and there. Like, for example, he said that the AR glasses will be bulkier and they will be some sort of design differences, which is to bear in mind. Or the Ray-Ban one looks more mainstream. So the AR glasses will look different. And yeah, it is a stepping stone. Like, it's an iterative process and it's going to take a little bit longer. But I've been reading a book actually called Exponential by Azim, and it's all about how exponential technologies kind of develop and grow and how they always seem quite small before they explode. The question is whether AR glasses are an exponential technology, but I'm actually not sure myself, which is why I'm still thinking about it for my book.
Funny that you mentioned about Boss, because I think he was tweeting recently about the Oculus users growth, and this is probably a different kind of conversation because we're moving away from AR glasses or Rayban Story glasses to Oculus, and the users growth has been quite worth noting because like 10 million was the proposed threshold, right, for a self-sustaining ecosystem of content on Facebook's platform. So they are like reaching it soon is definitely great to hear. Like for myself, right, I actually, decided to do a show or a podcast about the Metaverse because I bought I bought my Oculus Quest 2 finally after delaying it for years. And I was surprised by how great the quality is, how affordable it is. And Boss has been mentioning that, the number of Oculus users globally is roughly between 10 million and 4 million. So like that means that it's going to be a huge more amount of mainstream people coming into this segment, right? And coming into this industry as well. They're definitely going to be doing a lot more stuff in this realm because they are excited by products that help them to enter this really easily. What's your opinion about this, growth of Oculus users? Is this a good sign for the industry?
Of course, it's a good sign for the industry. I just wish they were more open about how many users there actually are. So I do want to see more users grow, and I want to see more competitors come in as well. So we got Pico, who was bought by ByteDance, and I'm interested to see what their strategy is long term. So my hope is the industry will grow exponentially and then more people will access. And I also hope there's more competitors too. Everything I've seen and all the analysis I've done indicates that it's an incredibly price elastic market where quality does not matter as much as price for people to enter it. So I'm looking forward to the day where there's a $200 headset or maybe even $250. And then more and more people will be able to access like the technology wise and just have fun. Because when that happens, then we're going to see an immediate spike in people entering.
Spot on. And, recently global data, right, they mentioned that AR is going to see 22-fold revenue grow by 2030. So while AR-based devices...
Because I'm really unsure about analysis like stuff like that, because it always seems to like sway one way or the other all the time. I really respect the analysis people want, like Omdia, CCS Insight, Super Data, Global Data, but at the same time, it's very, very difficult to predict where the industry is going to go. So I always have a grain of salt for stats like that.
Very true. And sometimes they mark their own homework, so there's no way to verify the data, right? But one of the things that is very interesting about this headline is that they also say that AR-based devices are set to one day replace the smartphone. So do you personally, maybe this is going back to AR glasses topic again, do you personally see AR glasses replacing smartphones? Like, really?
No. And the reason why I don't is because it's all about friction and user interactivity and user experience. And I don't think AR glasses would have the right input method in order for it to be more seamless than mobile phones. With a mobile phone, I could pick one up, I could unlock it and do whatever I want on it so easily in the span of a few seconds. With AR glasses, the input method is not there to be as seamless. Therefore, I don't see it replacing it. The exception might be if the neural interface gets good enough, but that's not going to happen within the next few years, maybe not even 5, maybe 10. But until then, no, our smartphones are going to dominate.
So what you're saying is that it's time for everybody, including me, to start accepting that this technology will take time to reach mass adoption because it involves so many complex disciplines, right? Like 3D, machine learning, vision, UX, radical innovation, lenses, chips, and what you just mentioned, all this neural stuff that is yet to be developed or still a long way to perfection, right?
Yeah, I just think people are putting the cart before the horse, where they're getting super, super hyped on nebulous information where we don't really know what it's going to look like. They might be proven right in like 10 years' time, where we're all wearing AR glasses, reading our minds, and then they go, "Ha, told you so." But no one's going to remember because that was 10 years ago. And I just think that we need to bear in mind that it's an iterative process where the true innovators are not the people like you and I who are like talking about it. We're merely reciting the hard work of the developers and technicians who are actually building the future. And I think we just need to bear in mind that it's not going to be an immediate jump. It's going to be building on previous technologies.
Fantastically said. And recently you were also cited in a piece exploring the ethical code for commercial VR, AR applications. So I think the whole piece is worth a read, even for our viewers, and also for the listeners of this podcast. And I'm definitely going to be inserting the link to this podcast episode. Tell us about why this is an important topic to discuss as these immersive experiences become more accessible and now used in a range of areas.
It's an important topic because we need to bear in mind that each step we take is going towards the right ethical direction. And I think what history has shown is that if you're not careful enough and you simply follow the money when it comes to developing technologies, the repercussions are ethical and it can lead to unintentional harm, which is why we should have measured steps when it comes to the commercial applications. I was honored to be cited in that paper, but I really do stand on the shoulders of like people who know far better than I about the topic. And also, this is one more thing I was thinking about actually. It's easy enough for someone to be like, oh, we need like an ethical framework. Oh, we need to like not do this or not do that. But fact of the matter is converting like a statement into a technical development, like the bits and bytes to follow that trend as well as the hardware, that's way beyond my knowledge or like the knowledge of many other people I know. So really we need to be talking to developers to like, and talk to them to go like, look, let's say we've got this like ethical stance. How do we convert that to an actual product or convert that into code? And I think that's been missing from the conversation from time to time.
Yeah, and I think so many people are so excited about this XR field, and people do really care about using tech in more responsible ways, just like what we have already experienced from using social media over the past decade, right? And we definitely need to derive or extract some lessons that have been taken from those previous tech revolutions and steps that have been taken to try to prevent all this history from repeating itself. It's like try to learn new mistakes rather than repeating old ones, right?
Yeah, I mean, history is a great teacher. We just need to listen to it from time to time. But at the same time, when it comes to technologies developing quickly, it's very difficult. History can't be a teacher for certain things. History cannot have taught us what's going to happen with surveillance capitalism, for example. I don't think there was any precedents in the past which would have indicated that would have happened. But at the same time, yeah, we just need to like be sensible about it. It's like, if we do X, what would happen? I think would be the key lesson I would take away.
Yeah. Recently, you also spoke to the Drum, and you spoke to them about the role of AR in retail, like what's behind big tech's rush to launch AR products for retail brands. So Perhaps you can maybe walk us through some of the things that you mentioned that you think is important for our listeners in Asia to actually pay attention to.
Yeah. Just to recite again what happened with the drum piece. By the way, you should follow the writer Chris Sutcliffe. He really knows his area within the drum. I think that we're going to go more towards web AR, so web augmented reality, which means people can access it via browsers. It's much easier to scan content and to be able to get all the data in just to interact with the product. The more seamless it is, the more successful it would be. Everything I've learned when it comes to product design is that the more frictionless an experience is, the more likely it is to succeed, which is why web AR is so important. I've spoken to developers who want to make AR apps and where they're super technical, but I always think, well, as soon as I need to download an app, then how many people are actually going to do it, And I've been super careful about voicing my opinions and that kind of stuff, but I genuinely think it's true. Genuinely, personal opinion. And when it comes to AR and retail, yeah, shops are opening up again. In the UK, it feels almost normal, which is worrying, but it does almost feel normal in the UK at the moment. And I have to wonder how AR is going to be used in the next few months on 2022, because I'm super intrigued to see what the direction it will go. Do you have any views on it yourself? I'm quite curious.
Well, I think it's definitely appearing, in the malls that I frequented. Last weekend, I was in a huge, for the first time, I think in 18 months, perhaps, I brought my family to a huge mall. And I've seen some of these great innovations. Finally, they are putting it in front of shop spaces, shop fronts, right? So retail POS systems, they are a next level. And of course, they have AR. And it's very exciting to see how they are actually using that to drive more foot traffic. Yes. Or to bring back the foot traffic that they used to enjoy. Well, that's, I think, a great step, which is basically to refresh the shop front and how the experience of shopping is like for retail, right? And I think it makes me want to go back to the mall, probably because we've been missing it for so long. And when they actually refreshing it with new technology like AR, I think that's going to help them to sell more products. And I actually spend more during this shopping trip than previously. So that says a lot about how AI is really effective when it comes to either promoting a product's specifications or its usability, or even using use cases, right? Which used to be on a brochure. Now you can just simply step into it and immerse yourself in the use cases. So I think that's the thing that I'm really excited about and want to see more of that, even in neighborhood shops. But when it comes to neighborhood shops, that probably will be the small businesses, and probably leads to the next question I want to ask you and get your views about, your thoughts about VR accessibility and the prospects of small businesses or even non-tech people to harness it. We know that the huge mega malls, they have the ability to afford all this technology. How about those small businesses? Do you see it staying with, just simply, trained professionals, or being accessible or more accessible via no-code design platforms? I'm a big fan of using no-code platforms like Canva or Airtable. What's your opinion on that?
I love no-code platforms, but I'm slightly biased because I tried and failed to learn how to code. So of course I do too. And I do think it's going to help. And we have already seen plenty of small businesses who've used the technology to develop their own bespoke experiences. That has happened, and it has worked for many, many companies. But that's for augmented reality, because it is easier. And there's also more access points because you have literally billions of phones who can see it. I'm just more worried about virtual reality because the impact is much smaller, because obviously it's a very singular experience. I went to a fashion show last night because it was a 24-hour kind of opening shop for Cyberdog, where they used HTC headsets to basically explore a little dance, basically, while people were showing off the clothing of Cyberdog. And it was very cool to see the VR content appear in real life, as well as kind of like a metaverse type screen. And it was very cool also to see all the fashion items come along through as well. What struck me though is the there's so many levels to this. First of all, I spoke to one fashion person who was there, and they said the VR thing was very, very cool. They've never seen anything like it before, and it left an impact on them. So when it comes to marketing for that retail store, it worked really well for them. So, which is really interesting. But what I wonder is, it's just not feasible for every business. you've got to bear in mind it's quite expensive to develop something like that. And you have to bear in mind that not everyone will be able to afford it. So it's only going to be very particular types of retail locations and stores who can use their technology. I think Cyberdog, if it's their aesthetic and it worked wonderfully for them for brand appeal, I just think that with businesses, they just need to consider whether VR will actually be additive to their strategy. I mean, I hope I made myself clear, but do you have any questions based on that?
Yeah, you mentioned about the Cyberdog and this fashion event, right? It got me excited. Probably, this is something that the big brands, the big fashion labels, they can afford. I think one of the fashion brands that are doing a lot of big things in the metaverse and using VR a lot, right, is Rebecca Minkoff. I think they even NFT some of their products, in all these virtual reality galleries or shops that they provide for the consumers, either online or during the physical store, experiences as well. So, in terms of like how the affordability factor, right? Are there any good options that are already, in existence? Are there any ones that you can point us to so that, even all these small businesses, right, can actually get or enter into this space and have all this VR accessibility at their fingertips without having to maybe overspend or going beyond budget to get maybe a builder, someone to build that technology for them that costs millions of dollars?
Okay, so I'm going to spin that question around slightly because I want to be very careful about how I answer this. I don't think businesses should be adding virtual reality for the sake of adding it at any stage. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm quite biased. I love virtual reality as well. I also recognize it's a tool that needs to contribute towards an overall strategy. So as soon as you have a business who says, "Oh, I just want to add VR and AR because it's cool," I'm going to raise an eyebrow and just go, yes, but how does it fit into your overall plan? Does it fit into branding imaging? Is it actually going to be impactful for your customers? What type of customers do you have? So the first question you should be asking is, who's my audience? Who are my customers? And then picking up bits and pieces of what your customers do. Like, do they like reading the Financial Times? Okay, well, do X and Y. Do they go on LinkedIn all the time? Okay, I'll invest into LinkedIn advertising. Are they quite affluent people who enjoy immersive technologies? Okay, so we'll invest into virtual reality and we could show them our world in that way. And I think that's the way you should be positioning the question sometimes.
I think those are really sharp questions that I think business owners, they should actually, consider it really carefully before they actually use this as a way to or a trend to jump into the metaverse, right? And by doing VR solutions and things like that, just to make sure that they are with the cool crowd. That's normally like the first step to failure, without actually considering the factors that will really help them to drive footfall traffic or people who can be converted. I think that's normally the most important thing about running a business, which is they gotta know, to do the sums right, yeah. And it's all a matter about budgeting as well. And sometimes you can have the same kind of impact in terms of marketing, how it translates into conversions by just doing free things like. Even doing a podcast is free to do and probably will drive the same kind of results than to invest in a VR experience, for example, for the customers. So I think you made a really good point early on about that, to be really careful and a more measured approach, is better, yeah. So I think this is probably a good time to plug your newsletter again, because I'm a big fan of a newsletter. I basically, pour through line by line with what you wrote every week, especially on Sundays when I have more time to read and check my email. So, want to tell us whether there is a campaign that is ongoing. That I know that recently you have this chance for your readers, right, to actually win an Oculus Quest 2. Tell us about this campaign. How our viewers and listeners in Asia can also take part in your newsletter campaign.
Well, rather unfortunately, the competition is now closed now. So exactly. And my dear listeners, I do apologize, but I do still have the newsletter, and if you do sign up, then you do get a nice little digest twice a week. And as you mentioned, news digests on Wednesdays and longer reads on Sundays. I try to be like quite light basically, so you can go through it very quickly if you like, and you can select the parts you like as well. And my hope for it is to basically level up your knowledge. So all you need to do is Google Immersive Wire newsletter and you've got it. And yeah, it's been great to join the show. It's just been quite nice to chit chat with someone as knowledgeable as you about the industry. But before we go, I do want to ask some questions to you as well.
Sure.
So, what's like the thing which is like sparking joy in you at the moment? Over the last month or so, what is getting you actually excited about like the future? It could be something super small, like a tiny little experience you've seen, or something major as well.
To be really honest, this is where I have to make a confession. Right? I'm a huge Apple fan. So I'm always like looking forward to what Apple is going to do next. So I think one of the things that they've done to promote their event, right, and got me, to actually stay up overnight. It's basically all the events are at 1 a.m., 2 a.m. in the morning. So it's hard for me in this part of the world to actually stay up to actually witness the entire event unravel. And my hopes were really raised, this particular event, because they did such a cool thing to market that event using that AR, that little nugget, right, that which you can only discover this Easter egg when you tap on the banner. I love how they promote and market an event. I think if every huge brand out there, or even maybe smaller businesses, if they're able to actually do this sort of immersive experiences or AR experiences, right, without spending an arm and a leg, I think everyone should actually look towards how Apple marketed the event. Of course, we are all kind of like our hopes were brought down because they didn't announce anything exciting in this area, but at least they promoted the event the right way. But that's just one part. I think the other part is definitely the focus more on the creator economy. Like more artists are now able to enter the metaverse as well. They're able to. I was talking to a musician who is more in the Radiohead or Bob Dylan and David Crosby mode when it comes to playing acoustic music. But she's even considering doing a metaverse concert now because of what's happening with in the world of entertainment, right? ABBA, I think they find that the technology enables them to reunite, to maybe put out new music and even do a VR concert again, because the technology is good enough for them to actually wear their movement tracking suits, just do a one-time recording in studio with like thousands of cameras, and they can actually tour the entire globe using that technology. I think that's something that makes creators or musicians really happy and excited about the possibility of actually taking their music to the next level. So I hope I answered your question. These are the two things that comes to mind immediately. How about you?
No, that's some great answers. I'm sorry for attempting to interrupt, but I wanted to say for PlayStation conferences, I actually stay up to watch them too. So I get your feeling when it comes to Apple events and staying up. And on marketing, I also agree that it's very good. You can argue that their press conferences, let's be frank, it's not for press. It's a marketing tool. It's a very powerful marketing tool as well. It's worked so well for them. And on the other experience, I've not tried anything like that before, but that is really cool. So I definitely want to fish around for that too. That's my only comment. But yeah, seeing little things like that do spark joy. And it's just quite lovely to see.
Yes, indeed. And, before we let you go, this is something that I always do to every singular podcast guest on our network of shows, is a rapid fire segment. So are you up for it?
Yeah, go on. What's the rapid fire segment? Hit me.
All right. So the rules are pretty simple. I'm just going to ask you some rapid fire questions. The rules are simple. Just give me a really short and pithy response. 1 sentence or 2 maximum. Yeah. So let's go. What are your proudest life moments?
Graduating from university, as well as seeing my sister graduate from university.
What do you want doing less of in 2021?
Checking TikTok.
What do you want doing more of in 2021?
Exercise. Although I do run every once in a while, I think I should be doing better.
Your advice for anyone who is entering into this space?
Keep a clear head. Just because someone's loud on social media doesn't mean they're right.
Any future ambitions or side projects in the pipeline?
Writing my book at the moment, slow going. If you want to potentially be featured, come in contact with me.
How can people reach you?
They can reach out for me. Great question. They can reach out for me in my newsletter. There's actually an email address at the bottom of my website. Or when you receive one of my newsletters, you can actually respond to that email, and then you can get in contact with me.
We'll put all these links and your email address in the podcast show notes, so anyone can just tap on it and go straight to your newsletter and subscribe because it's really educational and very resourceful and insightful as well. I always look forward to your next edition of your newsletter. So thank you so much, Tom Ffiske, for joining us today. To learn more about special guests, check out our podcast show notes. You've been listening to the Metaverse Asia Podcast presented by Proudest Asia. This episode is hosted and produced by me, Wayne Chung. And today we have Tom Ffiske contributing to the successful taping of this episode. Thank you so much for coming on. Any last words or message to our listeners who are replaying this podcast on your AirPods or smart speakers later on?
No, I just want to say it's been a pleasure to join up, and I hope all the listeners have an excellent day.
Thank you so much, Tom. Please take care. I'll see you around really soon. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Tom Ffiske from Immersive Wire. Do check out his newsletter. So with that, I'm going to take a break and be back with more podcasting action. Tomorrow, Sunday, we have 3 guests coming on the NFT Asia podcast. So with that, I'm going to bid you adieu. See you later. Bye-bye.